Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to IGN's News, Games, and More. I am Max Scoville, filling in for Sydney Goodman. I'm sorry that Sydney's not here. Her internet exploded. I'm joined by Tom Marks, Janet Garcia, and Josh Dew, and we are here to talk about some news.
And games.
That's true, and more. All of the things.
Yeah.
So we got just a real saucy story up top here. This is a doozy. Nintendo had to issue a cease and desist to a TikTok influencer and OnlyFans star over her Pokemon branding. Her handle was originally Poke Princess, and she's since changed it to Digital Princess because Nintendo reached out and said, please do not do that. Please do not associate the Pokemon with adult content. Do we have any strong feelings about this?
It certainly wouldn't be the first time Pokemon was associated with adult content. I think, we can't ignore the elephant in the room there. But I mean, Nintendo is notoriously aggressive about their IPs and like protecting them. You always hear those like little anecdotes of them coming after like a kid's birthday party. So yeah, pretty much anyone can get the smoke at this point, and it makes sense that if someone's gaining any level of like fame or notoriety, that they're going to want to clarify that and kind of draw the line in the sand. So definitely not surprising. Honestly, it's more surprising if anyone manages to get away with doing anything in relation to their IPs without it being already pre-approved by them.
Yeah, well, this is one of those interesting things. I think that the person themselves, the Digital Princess now, said that she thought that it was almost certainly because of the kind of adult connotations and that was a part of it for one of the reasons they went after her specifically. Because the thing that I think is interesting is like, this is completely within Nintendo's rights, right? She was, to her own admission, right, infringing on their copyright by making money off of that Pokemon stuff and selling merch with those images.
I think that's the key thing there, is that she had merch that had like pictures of Mew on it or like different actual Pokemon, and it wasn't like, it wasn't that kind of like blurred line of like, hey, support my deviant art fan art. It's like, hey, I make porn and do TikTok and buy my shirt that has a copyrighted character on it,
Right. And I think that that's not something you can really like. There's a lot to debate in this whole story or like talk about, but like that part is just sort of like the law. That's just sort of straightforward in all this. The interesting thing that I find about all of it is like, you can go on to Etsy and like Google Pokemon pins and buy tons of bootleg unofficial Pokemon pins, right? Like people get away with selling Nintendo branded merch all the time. It's just a matter, like Janet said, of like when somebody's getting up there, getting more known, or doing something Nintendo like specifically isn't cool with, is sort of when they strike. And when they do strike, they are very aggressive about it.
I mean, there's the whole thing, if you don't protect a copyright or a trademark, then you legally have to do that for it to be considered yours.
Right.
And we see this where it seems like a company is the bad guy, where, like the guy who created the Nyan Cat sued Scribblenauts because they put the Nyan Cat in there. And he's like, no, dude, like this is my bread and butter. Like the Nyan Cat t-shirts are how I pay my rent. And if I don't actively pursue that copyright, like we don't, in this case, obviously those little kind of nickel and dime, like Etsy shops or like the dude selling bootleg Pikachus at PAX East or whatever, like that's a little bit different from like a massive, huge TikTok OnlyFans following. And obviously the adult thing is a big part of that too. I'm definitely like, I without hesitation, I'm like, yeah, I see why this happened. I'm a little bit less sympathetic when it's like somebody's like, I faithfully recreated Mario Kart 3D using, I made it myself using Flash, and they're like, you go to jail, like like that's always feels like they're just kind of being bullies. But in this case, it's like, nah, you can kind of understand why they would do that.
I think the difference too is that she's combining it with her own self-promotion, right? It's like Etsy is like, oh, I'm just selling these pins, but they're just of Pokemon. But like this shirt is like Mew, but on the front it says Poke Princess. So it's like not only she makes it seem like Nintendo is like backing her basically.
Well, it also raises a weird question because we live in this age of, influencers and content creators sort of taking their own internet handles and turning them into brands.
Right.
Like, I mean, our good friend Charlanazard, like Alana Pierce, that's a Charizard
Jail.
reference.
No,
wait, did you just sell her out?
She's going to jail. She's going to get.
Yeah,
she's
like, I can either confirm nor deny knowing Charizard, having seen Charizard, no
They have to-
association with Charizard.
I love it. They're like, you have to change it to a less cool Pokemon. You can pick from Dragonite or the big whale one. Pick one, or else you go to jail. But yeah, I mean, there's the Twitch streamer Pokimane, which is like,
Right.
it's spelled differently. I guess you get sort of parody ruling there, but it is that weird thing where it's like you're not like if you were founding a company, like
Yeah.
no, you would never in a second be like part of it's going to be a very famous thing, like it's gonna
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
but the
and,
cool-
and
the cool
I've
thi- oh,
I've
go ahead.
seen well, I've seen developers too. Like, this is a just amazing Twitter thread that I read a long time ago that I can't remember the developer now, but it was basically like, "Hey, are you super excited about making a fan game and you love this one franchise and you want to like honor it by making a totally free fan game? Here's my advice: don't, because like it will ruin your life." And like the truth of the matter is like, these big companies don't need to be polite about any of this, and cease and desists are not like a necessity. Like, they can just sue you and like win if you do that stuff, like that's not like there's this sort of like people are accustomed to companies sending cease and desists, and it really does not need to be that way. Like, if you make a fan game, like people can just like they're with 100% within their right to just like shut it down and ruin you financially depending on the situation.
I mean, even if they sue you and you wind up with court fees, like you got to go and
right,
got to go to Men's Warehouse, buy a tie and wear that. You got to.
I hear you're gonna like the way you look though, at the
Yeah,
very
you're gonna love the way you look.
So there's
no,
that going for you.
the good thing here is the Digimon Princess, whatever, digital princess.
No, she's not
Just
Digi
double
Princess.
down
She's
on-
gonna get another. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
gonna
right.
get
Yeah.
another.
Just running the gambit here.
But she was a good sport about it, and she gets it. And she says Nintendo doesn't want people to think I'm in any way, shape, or form affiliated with them, or that I have a partnership with them. It all comes back to me being an adult entertainer. It's kind of cool thing to say that the ones who made my childhood so cool, they finally noticed me. So really, that's a silver lining right there. All it took was for me to infringe on everything about them, she added. So she's a good sport about it. And also, I feel like she's probably getting a ton of press from this, which yeah,
which is great for her OnlyFans.
Yeah, I mean, here we don't usually cover this sort of thing, but here we are talking about OnlyFans on IGN.
I'm surprised she like had to change her name, I guess, because she's not using like Poke, like the E, like accented E, right? Could she have gotten away with just calling herself Poke Princess?
I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing about all those like you were saying with Pokemon, right? It's like you the line is so blurry that regardless of whether she could have gotten away with something like that or could have made a case for it, like, do you want to be spending thousands upon thousands of dollars in that case, right?
Yeah.
Like, or you just want to change your name.
So here's a weird one. This is ancient history, but somebody like a million years ago made a Mario Brothers adult film parody, and Nintendo, I mean, back then it was like harder to just, I think, like, I don't know, for whatever reason, instead of like just going to court, they just bought the rights to it. So they owned the rights. There's a sort of like technically like an official Mario Brothers like.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, this is a thing. This is
wow.
I don't want to Google it, but
I don't want to Google it. I'm on the work computer.
I trust you.
I may be getting some detail that's wrong, but that's so funny.
So an officially Nintendo licensed pornographic film is out there.
They were, I mean, it's probably out there because it's the internet, but like, it's basically I think the easiest way for them to like just shut it down was like, okay, we're gonna buy it.
This
Make
is
sure
like huge.
no other copies ever made.
I forgot what the name for this like meme / GIF is, but like that thinking one, that's like peak
Galaxy
that
brain.
energy. Yeah. There's several memes that kind of get at that idea, but what a odd but effective way to just deal with that issue. Also, this is giving me like major flashbacks to like very minuscule Last of Us 2 spoilers, but that kind of like wink and nod at like their franchise, like Naughty Dog franchises, like used in pornographic films. Like, I don't know. That's not really related, but it reminded me of it.
That's also like not a spoiler of all the stuff in that game.
Technically, anything is a spoiler. It's just that who's going to complain, and the answer is someone will. Someone will complain. So, which is why I said it.
Now, speaking of spoilers and Sony PlayStation things and whatnot, we have a little bit of a tease about the PlayStation 5 UI, which is coming from the most unexpected place that I feel like we just need to learn to expect the unexpected in 2020. But Burger King has revealed a little bit of it's a video of the Burger King opening a big bag that has a blue light shining on his face, and we hear that sound of the PlayStation 5 noise that was also used in the reveal event. So Sony could just reveal this stuff on their own, but why do that? Because that would be straightforward and simple. You could hide these little Easter eggs in a fast food commercial. But they're doing a giveaway for PlayStation 5 through Burger King. There's also been, I think, a Burger King worker like tweeted a photo of like a giveaway sign or something. I mean, this is pretty par for the course. Xbox is doing stuff with Taco Bell, which is actually, I think I've seen that they did the Xbox. Was it the Series X that was a Taco Bell one, and you push the button, it would make the Taco Bell noise, which is actually really cool.
No, I think that was a 1S, maybe 1S or 1X. I can't remember which it was, but yeah, we had one of those
1X.
in the office.
I forgot. I got the Series X and the 1X mixed up because
we had one of those in the office and no one played the sound for me. What?
Yeah.
Of
well,
all
the problem was anytime somebody would turn it on, we'd
shown.
all get hungry. We'd go eat great.
Yeah.
Even late.
It was
Fourth meal. Liv Moss.
It was a Pavlov's like dog sort of scenario.
Yeah.
You turn on the Xbox and everybody just gets hungry and is expecting
Also,
Taco Bell.
this begs the question: can you fit a PlayStation 5 inside a standard Burger King bag?
No.
That's what I
tall.
was thinking.
Right?
No, it
Okay,
doesn't
thank
fit
you,
in
Tom.
there,
Asking the important questions. Can you fit a PS5 in a Burger King bag, and can you fit the Xbox into a backpack?
Well, what we need to do is we need to know how large the man in the disassembly PlayStation 5 video
Oh, this is some like game theory level. We're just gonna
compared to the
math this
King.
out.
Yeah. and
Well,
if we
yeah, the
see
King,
on
his
camera-
it's a pretty big bag. I think the size of the King's head kind of makes it look a little smaller, but if you look at the hands, that's a big bag.
Are all the
think
bags standard sizes, or do you get a larger bag contingent on your order at all?
I've never seen a fast food restaurant serve with a bag that large.
You
I'm
have to
sure
get
that
you have
this
to like
is
cater
why-
a birthday party for that bag.
Yeah.
To get
I'm
the
Oh,
sure
and
it's
Five Guys.
exactly-
Five Guys has bags this big, actually.
This
They
is
actually have
exactly the
a bag of
conversation.
Five Guys that can fit 5.
Welcome to
adult men inside it.
Yeah.
This is exactly the conversation Sony wanted us to be having
Oh,
right now
oh,
after
yeah.
this tease.
Damn.
I know. You know
I
what?
just
And I'm not
fell
mad
for
at it because honestly, this stuff is goofy and silly and kind of like. Okay, so I do take my job in this industry extremely seriously. I take great pride in my work, and it's very hard work. At the same time, every now and then there are these moments where I just feel like, how ridiculous is this? Like, you have to just acknowledge that this is silly. Like, we're literally getting paid right now to analyze a clip of a mascot opening a bag that fake has a PlayStation 5 in front of it. Like, I'm living for it. I love it. This is my gut reaction to this was finally the timeline is producing something that isn't part of a hellscape. Like, I am for it is corporate, so it's a corporate hellscape, I'll give you that, but like, it was already corporate. This is Sony, like, come on. But yes, I enjoy the goofiness of this. This is dumb. I'm here for more dumb stuff this gen.
A lot of people know Burger King as a hamburger restaurant, but they did also release several video games for the Xbox 360. There was the Sneak King, there was the race car one, and there were 2 other ones that I don't remember, but everyone remembers Sneak King, which is one of the best Metal Gear games, and I think we need a brand new PS5 version of Sneak King running in the Fox engine, and I'd get Kojima on that. Anyway,
I mean, this is the perfect time for that.
Yeah.
So here's some very good news. I love good news in this year of bad news. We are getting a Mad Max Furiosa spinoff that is casting Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Hemsworth, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. You may know them as Anya Taylor-Joy was just in New Mutants. She was also in Glass. She was in The Vivitch. Chris Hemsworth is, of course, Thor. And Yahya Abdul-Mateen was Black Manta, but also in HBO's Watchmen. That is an awesome cast. And also, it is George Miller doing this, who is the original Mad Max creator and also the director of both Happy Feet movies, which is very weird.
And Babe
You
2.
gotta have something for your kids.
Yeah.
It's the same reason Del Toro did Spy Kids, right?
Del Toro didn't do Spy Kids, did he? No, that's Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Robert Rodriguez. Yeah. My bad.
Del Toro did Troll Hunters, so
There we go. See, everyone has one.
Everyone gets one. It's true.
You got to do something that your kids can watch at a certain point. So you just make Happy Feet.
Yeah.
You know.
I think this will be cool. I mean, I know there's that whole thing of like recasting, characters. Like, obviously, like, we got Tom Hardy instead of Mel Gibson, which everyone is pretty much fine with because Fury Road just kicks tremendous amounts of ass. And I think like there was some interview with Charlize Theron being like, I don't go pass the torch, let somebody else do it or whatever.
Well,
and
and plus this is like a prequel, right? So the idea that she might be a younger actress in the role makes some kind of sense in that regard. It's I'm on board with this, man. Fury Road was great. It's cool to have it's cool to have George Miller there. Furiosa is a really cool character. We'll just have to see. I'm on board though, conceptually.
Same.
I'm into it.
I think it's rare that prequels ever work, but I think if it's a prequel about a side character or a secondary character, I think it could work for sure. Case in point, Better Call Saul.
Also, like the Mad Max universe is totally like pliable and weird.
Yeah.
And you look at the leap between the original Mad Max and Fury Road, and that's like those are like just different universes practically, and it doesn't. The important thing is that George Miller just has fun with it and gets weird, and they blow up the car. That's the important part. They gotta blow up the car.
That definitely sticks out to me too, in that like Fury Road, I don't like, you don't need to know Mad Max to like Fury Road, right? Like Fury Road feels very much like this isolated sort of story in that universe in a very smart way. And like the Mad Max universe now, after so many kind of post-apocalyptic things have come after it, doesn't really feel overly interesting or original to me personally. So the idea that they would, instead of making like a long epic in that universe, just sort of like tell stories in that universe is a much more interesting direction to go, because it allows them to just sort of like go where they want and do what they want and focus on the characters they want at that time, rather than trying to fit in like a MCU style arcing narrative across multiple films like that. I don't want that from Mad Max.
Exactly.
I'd much rather have this.
I mean, they're totally shameless with that. Where like the gyrocopter captain in The Road Warrior is played by the same dude as the pilot in Beyond Thunderdome, and they're just like they're the same role, but they're different characters, and they're played by the same actor. It's Bruce Spence in both of them, and it's like if you were trying to be like, oh, that's the same guy, and it's like, no, it's a different character. He just looks exactly the same and is doing pretty much the same thing, but like that's exactly how like loosely unconnected those movies are. So screw it, go nuts.
So I just want to point out that on the YouTube chat, Papa Jones 007 says, I'm with Mr. Bowtie there, and petition to call Tom Mr. Bowtie, because that's a lovely, charming, whimsical nickname.
Veto.
Overruled. I don't know. It doesn't have to make sense.
All right, so it is now the time of the show when we talk about Bloodborne, because that's the best thing, and it's good to talk about it. There's a Bloodborne modder whose name is Lance McDonald, who has also done a lot of work on PT. Shared a video showing Bloodborne running at 60 frames a second, and he's basically said like that he hopes to release this in the future and let people play it, but also he's sort of aware that Sony is probably working on some kind of updated Bloodborne support, hopefully on PS5. I think we're all kind of looking for that, because that's a great game that has some things that could age better technically. But yeah, it's
yeah, we don't know if Bloodborne's one of the games that Sony said is going to have like the boost mode for PS5 yet. But I think it's interesting of this modder to basically be like, I can get this working and I can release it to the community, but like, let's see what they do first, right? Like, let's see if they can pull this out with official support first. It's an interesting take, and I don't hate it.
Yeah, I think it just speaks to I'm not like a Bloodborne person, but I think it speaks to how intense this fan base is about it. Like, it's something that is like really cared for, and for the most part, obviously some people can be head ass with stuff, like with any fandom, but for me, like my experience with Bloodborne fans is just them saying that they really love Bloodborne and just going on random tangent stories about like how Bloodborne's this is a wonderful game and all these hours that are poured into it. And like, I think that people that spend this much time with something, one could argue like, well, why not just kind of wait for Bloodborne 2? Like, who really cares about like boost mode or having this higher performance thing? But if this seems like the kind of game that people tend to hundreds of hours, years, like just over and over again. And for that reason, I think it is, worth revisiting, especially too with like it being part of the PlayStation collection as well. Like, to me, I kind of looked at that as not only games that maybe could end up getting boost mode, but also this idea of PlayStation is rolling out the PS5, and they're sort of putting these games on the foundation, kind of taking the helm of what PlayStation, what Sony gaming experiences are. So like I kind of looked at that list and I'm like, okay, well, like who's on here? Like what does this mean for next gen? You know, I saw like Days Gone's on there. I'm like, is there going to be a Days Gone 2? Like this kind of leaves credence to that. So I think it was definitely like a way to say like these are our sort of staple franchises, even just moving into the next gen as well.
It's going to be a weird thing if they are just like straight PS4 ports. I think they need to have a little bit of polish on there, because especially, you know, or I think earlier PS4 games definitely kind of show their age. Like Bloodborne's a great example of that, where like that's a fantastic game, but there's like little things in there that just what is he calls out a vast array of features such as cloth physics, particle and special effects, environmental wind, enemy patrol pathing. There's basically there's like a bunch of things you could tweak. Like if you've ever ridden down an elevator while wearing like a very flowing robe in that game, it just gets like blown up over your head like that Marilyn Monroe photo. It's definitely like there's definitely some Bloodborne jank, which I think is like kind of great, but it's also seeing that with like a fully overhauled, you know, buttery smooth finish and just make it look like perfect. I'd be very excited about that. But I mean, if you got Bloodborne looking like Demon Souls remake, then I think a lot of people would get very worked up about that.
Yeah. There's so much. Bloodborne is one of those funny games, like Janet said, where it's just like the fan base. I mean, Max, I don't have to tell you, the fans who love it, right, and are so into it, and it does feel very sort of like, not, this is maybe going too far, but like the ugly stepchild of the Souls world, where like it just doesn't it doesn't feel like much has been done to it or happened to it, or like officially support wise since it came out. Like From just sort of moved on to other things a little bit, and the world was like, no wait, we want more of this.
It's a weird one, because I mean it was Sony published it,
right?
It's I think you kind of see that, like, I guess FromSoft continues to support, like I think Bandai like throws a lot of money at it. It's just, I mean, it's weird that they kind of play the field with different publishers. And
sure.
I mean, Activision published Neo, or not Neo. What am I saying? Sekiro, which I don't think anyone was expecting.
Yeah, they're very From is so interesting with their games, because they're very like mercenary in that they have such a distinct style with their, you know, for a term I don't really like very much, Souls-like games, right? But they have a very specific flavor, and then they just sort of get commissioned by people, where it's like, oh, Sony wants a Souls game, like, okay, we can make that. No, Activision wants a Souls game now, sure, we can do that. And not saying they're all the same, it's just like I can't think of too many other developers that operate that way.
Yeah, Stadia Beast on the IGN comments said some guy at home can make the game at 60 frames a second, but FromSoft can't. More likely, Sony is stopping them because they own the IP. Yeah, it's a weird little thing in there.
Well, that's also like modders on PC have had to fix every JRPG that came out on PC in the last decade, right? Like every one of those games, the company will be like, we had to lock this at 30 frames per second because the game is tied to it in some way. And then in like a week, this modder Durante will be like, oh, I fixed it. And like, there's some sort of, I don't know the mechanics or like the reasoning behind all of that, but like clearly there's something going on behind the scenes that makes sort of like updating these games harder than it would seem on the surface.
Yeah. Next up, here's I kind of back and forth on this, because I'm always excited to hear what Rockstar Games is doing, but this I feel like is one of those sort of business as usual inside baseball stories. Rockstar Games has purchased the Crackdown 2 developer. Let's see, this is someone else's notes here. Did anyone else get the details on this story? This is the one that did Crackdown 2, which is sort of widely considered I think like the best in the series. People really love that one. But that also came out quite a while ago. This is Ruffian Games.
Ruffian Games. Yeah, they bought them up, and they're listing them as Rockstar Dundee, which is not Australia. Dundee is a city in Scotland.
Oh yeah, I learned that in Succession.
Just on brand, just real on brand.
Thank you. Always bring it back to Succession.
Yeah, it's interesting that Rockstar's expanding like this and buying more studios up, especially as you see like Microsoft and Sony buying studios up.
Well, they haven't like made what was the last like big thing they made? Ruffian. So I'm seeing they previously worked on Connect, Star Wars,
Woof.
Halo: The Master Chief Collection, and Crackdown 3.
Yeah, so I mean,
That's a
this
very
is-
up and down, like
Yeah.
the range of emotions that I just went through really took me back in a lot of ways.
There's also a lot of studios that work on. They're like working studios. You know, they're
Yeah.
ones that work on ports, or they handle
Right.
the multiplayer side of things, or it's basically doing some heavy lifting for another studio that gets all the credit for like the design and the ground up stuff. So it's interesting to see what this means. I think everyone hears like you hear Rockstar Games and you hear Crackdown 2 and you're like, oh cool, Rockstar is going to make Crackdown 3 again maybe, or they're going to throw in orbs into GTA 5 online or something. But realistically, it's I don't know. Maybe they're going to have them port GTA 5 to Switch. Maybe they're going to have them work on car
Right.
physics for GTA
Right.
6. Like I don't, they could be doing pretty much anything.
Yeah, and that plays into Rockstar just being an enormous company already, right?
Yeah.
Like
So-
if there are studios that could buy an entire studio and it'd be like a massive increase to their size, and then like Rockstar buying an entire studio is like, yeah, it's more Rockstar.
It's just another notch in their belt, basically, right? So they're just adding another team, essentially, another studio that
Yeah.
could just work hard. Like, so they maybe could have less crunch on their games. Probably not,
good.
but hopefully.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
dream. Let's see.
Sure.
Jordan in the chat says maybe Dundee will work on Bully 3.
Dude, but this is the part of that is like,
Gotta make a Bully 2 first, though, huh?
Oh,
maybe
what?
they made
Yes.
it, just didn't release it. Like we don't know.
Is there a Bully 2 that I don't know
that
about?
correction
Jordan,
really
what do
threw
you
me through a
know?
loop.
Like this
Yeah.
is
Like-
why it's so wild to me to speculate on anything that Rockstar's doing, even when buying a studio, because like I have no idea what Rockstar's doing, even if they hadn't bought this studio, right? Like
Right.
like GT, like, and that's not to say they're not doing anything, right? Like that's not throwing shade. That's like they were a studio that was releasing a ton of games, and then GTA 5 came out and that changed, and they did GTA Online and they supported it really well long term, even to this day. And then they did Red Dead 2 and they're supporting Red Dead Online. But like, what are they working on right now? Like, we genuinely don't know if that's GTA 6, if it's a Red Dead 3, if it's a Bully thing, if they're going to go back to making more games. Like, that's the bigger question to me here, is just like, we don't really know what Rockstar is working on overall at all. So like speculating what Dundee is making seems sort of like a effort in futility.
Very true.
Yeah.
But it could
That's
be
a lot of these.
Bully
That's a lot of
2.
these efforts. So let's not go there.
We got some people in the chat who really want to hear about the PlayStation 5 UI Tease, which we talked about at the top of the show. It really wasn't much because it's
Yeah.
a slow day. But
We weren't
once
really in
again,
depth on that bag though.
there was a Burger King
We did.
commercial
I
where
photoshopped. I try to make it seem like if it actually could fit in the bag, and I think it fits in the bag.
Okay, but the UI is the thing that people are really worked up about. Really all it was there was
But if you rewind, you can hear us talking about the bag.
That's also the thing, is if you show up to like a live show and like if you get here at like 20 minutes in and you're like, why aren't they talking about the thing at the beginning? And it's like, well, were you here at the beginning? It's, I don't know. If you show up like like an hour into a movie, you're like, who are all these people? It's like, that's not how movies work, dude. Like, anyway, the point is that they played that sound effect in the Burger King commercial that seems to be a noise we're going to hear. Like, it might be the startup sound. We heard it briefly in the big PS5 reveal. So it's, again, I'm sorry if that's a letdown. We're doing the best we can. There is one big piece of news here we should have probably led with and talked about, which is the new iPhone stuff that happened, which a lot of people are talking about. And I know it's not as fun as a PlayStation 5, but they're doing more iPhones, guys. You want to talk
This
about
just
the
means
iPhones?
that like my old ass iPhone is about to like die, because this always, we all know how the game goes. Like, as more and more iPhones come out, like your iPhone is just aging, and like Apple's just gonna like kill your iPhone at night. Like, it's just gonna come for it. It's gonna stop loading things, opening things. I'm still chasing the dream of being someone that can get a new iPhone every year. That's when I'll know I made it, if I could. And then if you could pay for it straight up, because like I don't want to add to my phone bill. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it anymore. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I can get these. I got these consoles, so maybe I can get this iPhone one day.
Maybe. The thing that you really should shoot for, though, is getting old and just not caring about a new iPhone. and just realizing that you're like, what do I use it for anyway? I stare at Reddit, you know, like it's like
Okay.
it's an alarm clock that makes me sad sometimes. Like what?
It is. Oh my god, that alarm too. It's so abrasive. Jeez. Like 2 went off at once this morning for me. Like my boyfriend also has an iPhone, and it was just like I was like shocked awake. It was awful. But for me, it's not so much about like the cloud of having the newest thing. It just feels like it does end up being where you look at your like older aging iPhone, and then you ever like use someone's new phone when you have an old phone, and you're like, oh man, you got like all these different camera on, like, oh, this is a working phone. And then you go back to your like hovel of a phone, and do you really need it? No, but like I don't need a lot of the things I have, which I realize is a very privileged thing to say, but it is my truth. I think
Yeah.
the pile of trash that's behind me is a testament to that.
Well, I got great news.
But
If
yeah.
you're worried about touching somebody else's iPhone and it being making your iPhone feel like old, you shouldn't be touching other people's iPhones anyway, because there's
That's true.
diseases out there. So just, and also like, I don't know, like it's really kind of a weird time for portable technology, because it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be able to take it in my kitchen, in my living room. I can take photos of stuff around the house. What a thrill!
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was
first-
actually like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I was just gonna say the first iPhone with 5G is less exciting when nobody ever leaves Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that was like exactly what like my boyfriend's really heavy into tech, and he's like always watching this stuff and keeping up on it. And I'm like, oh, what do you think? And he's like, I'm not interested. And he said that exact same reason. He's like, a lot of things it's introducing are completely irrelevant to right now. So like, where do I need to go? Where am I going? Like down the hall? Like there's
Yeah.
nothing there.
Yeah.
So the big thing is the whole 5G thing is they're jumping on 5G finally. It's sort of late to the party there, but it's also kind of 5G with an asterisk, where it only uses it if it really needs it. So if you're like streaming HD movies to a 6-inch screen, or playing League of Legends Wild Rift, which just got announced for iOS, like you want super low latency, you want it very fast, so it'll kick into 5G for that. But I guess for the most of the time it's still going to be on mostly 4G, just to save battery life, which is smart. But again, also, like, when are you going to be away from the charger these days?
Too. It seems like they featured a lot with like the camera as well, and like they put a lot of emphasis on their kind of night mode and their HDR and 4K at 60 frames, and especially the iPhone like 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. It's just like super extra, and I'm just like, they're touting these phones now as like some of the best digital cameras on the market, which is also like pretty true. I mean, like, their cameras are crazy good now, and they're super mobile, but they also just happen to be able to like, play Candy Crush, which is weird to me. Like, why? I'm like wondering if Apple ever considered just putting these cameras out just as cameras. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like the fact that they folded into like a 5G smartphone device, ups the price quite a bit. And I'd be interested in just kind of like Apple's take on a GoPro, honestly.
That
That'd
would
be
be
pretty
wild. I
cool.
mean, there was that period where they had it was what, like the iPod Touch that was basically an iPhone with none of the phone part,
Yeah,
which was
Yeah,
kind of cool.
I remember that.
that was a
yeah.
weird moment.
We got a great M Johan in the chat says 5G for xCloud. Probably not. Probably maybe if Apple rolls over on that would be cool. But in the meantime, if you want all of the hottest new features from the iPhone 12, you could also just go get an Android phone from last year and probably experience all sorts of thrills.
See, but the thing is, and I feel like, not to start this like just more weird tech wars in the chat and stuff, but like people with who are like vying for Android, or like I know it's better. It's kind of like the PC console thing. I know it's better. I don't care. I don't know why it hurts you that I don't care. I don't know why you're mad that I don't care. I do not care. I'm excited for a PS5. I'm excited for the new iPhone. Does that make me basic? A little bit. Do I care? No. Do I ever tell you? Like, it's like iPhone users are never like adding Android people about I don't even know what like it's just the homogeneity of
They have cool-
iPhone.
I don't know. I mean, I say that as somebody who hasn't had an Android phone since like 2011, and I hated it then. So I don't know. I kind of just want to get a BlackBerry and just, like that.
I do
back in the
miss
day.
when like back in the day, I say that it's like maybe like 10, 15 years ago, or however long ago, when like there wasn't like this big dominant phone market where there kind of was like, okay, there's Apple and there's Android, and then there's like a handful of like whatever. Back when like you really had to decide each time you got a phone like what you were doing. It was like a whole I spent so much time researching, and now I just mindlessly get a new iPhone from every few years when mine starts like not charging
Starts
properly or not
heating up
working.
or the battery lasts 13 minutes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Android people though are the ones that spend forever trying to pick out the right Android phone because there are so many different varieties.
Yeah, they're still living in that world that I was in when I was like in 7th and 8th grade. No shade, but that's just facts. Like I was like carefully researching, like this is like my life decision. But yeah,
It was a big
It's an iPhone.
investment, especially
Yeah.
like because these phones, you try to hold on to them for a while, and then you drop it and crack the screen, and everything sucks.
nothing like getting a new phone and like not wanting to pay like the $10 for a proper screen protector. You're like, I'm just gonna risk it. You're like,
start
oh
penny
wait,
pinching
you want me to
them,
buy you want me to buy a case for this? No,
Yeah.
I can't do it today. You're
My-
gonna have to hit me next check. I can't do it today.
My great shame in middle school was that everyone, it was back when the hotness, right? Everyone had a Razor flip phone. And it
Oh
was
yeah.
like, that was the biggest thing. And I had the knockoff Razor, and it was literally called the Blade. It was like
Oh,
just
Tom.
not nearly as cool. and
What was the
way
manufacturer?
I don't
I
remember.
love that so
man.
much.
The Blade?
Yeah.
I remember one that was like a switchblade. It was really thin, but it also like flipped out.
Oh,
Like I think it's called the
remember that.
Juke. I think it's the Juke.
That thing
was
was
cool.
wild.
It was like
Yeah.
it was thin, like it was legit narrow, but it came out like a
Yeah.
switchblade.
Anyway, we are going to wind things up for today. This has been News, Games, and More. If you want more News, Games, and More, there will be another one of these tomorrow, which I think I'm also hosting. I'm filling in for Sydney today, and that's why I didn't read I didn't do the homework. I didn't read the notes. But thank you all for hanging out and chatting. This was fun. I hope we have more PS5 news tomorrow. I don't know if we will, but maybe at some point between now and when that thing comes out in stores, we'll know more about it.
Can I show
Thank
my
you, everyone.
Photoshop as we leave?
Oh,
Sure.
please.
There it is.
Yay.
What
I'm
is
sharing my screen. Does this
Okay.
work? Oh no.
I don't know if it works.
Maybe it doesn't
It might-
work.
There
It's
might
not
be
gonna
like
work.
protocol to stop
Forget
us
about
from
it.
ruining the
All right.
stream. Please tweet it out.
I'll
All
tweet
right.
it.
Good night, everybody.
I will
Thank you so
retweet it. I'm
much.
excited.
And we'll see you
Follow me
tomorrow.
on Twitter.